Hi, my name is Karen Holmes. I'm the founder and director of the World Peace Organization for the One World Government. Today I wanted to start with a journey that we're all going to be taking over. It's going to extend on and on and on into the future, as we start taking our first steps, there will be milestones and it will go on into the future forever. You could say we're going to be taking this idea into the stars with star travel, and we're going to talk about going interdimensionally into the future as far as our mankind's evolution. We're starting out as being part of nature. Our journey basically starts with this beginning idea. We've been on the journey forever with our evolution, but now we're taking it to a paradigm shift that allows us to step out of the third dimension and into the fourth and then into the fifth dimension. I know this sounds very logical, but the longest journey begins with the first step. And so now, as we are looking back into the third dimension, we can push off from that and then go into the paradigm shift of the fourth dimension. So that's where we're going to start. But first of all, we're going to just take the journey slowly in a perfect order, one step at a time, and consciously work to create the future that we want to create. People talk about in a more perfect world, things would be different. Well, the idea is to work to create the more perfect world and to understand how to make that happen with the principles of creativity and all the other principles associated with that. So our first idea is the creation of this international government based on the U.S. Constitution and the principles of the cooperation of nature. And that will allow us, it's two proven concepts, that will allow us to move forward, taking the U.S. Constitution to the next step, which is to go internationally, and taking the principles of the cooperation of nature to the next step also, and that is to work on it as the idea of win-win agreements economically instead of the idea of games of one-upmanship. So we're going to be looking at all these ideas as we evolve, as mankind evolves to the next step. You could say that the plan for the international government was first introduced at our prayer circle in 1999 in a book called A Manual for Peace, and that it's taken a long time for people just to get to the point where I can publish my own book. So it's step by step. People have been, as I said, have been taking the steps, but now what we're going to do is we're going to start taking this idea, what information has been given to us in these books and such, and then we're going to go forward. But the first one, as I said in my last video, we're taking a step back and looking at the conference in Europe, and then we're going to be pushing off from that and going into the track our progress planning on a government level. Right now, this is the 7th of August in 2024, so we're just a few months away from the election. And things are, Kamala Harris, in the United States, Kamala Harris just announced that she was going to have Walz as her running mate, as her vice president. So we don't know where that's going. But what we're going to look at is, as mankind has been at the crossroads, let's say that for the last X length of time, as we've reached this point of the crossroads, we can go up, down, or straight ahead, and the idea of down into the power games of authoritarianism in the United States doesn't look all that appetizing for our future. And Donald Trump announced that he was going to make it so that nobody had to vote anymore, which sounds really great if you don't like to stand outside in the rain and the snow and such. But what happens if you don't want a dictatorship? This is the end times, you could say, for our country related to authoritarianism. But on the other hand, if the Democrats, the liberals, basically can't solve problems or don't solve problems based on the doing based on plans on the based on the root cause of the problem. What you have is that it just doesn't solve the problem either. So that that road may seem to go okay for a while, but then it goes down because you're passing the crisis on to future generations. So the only plan that will be accepted at the crossroads is the one that benefits everyone, and everyone will eventually be on that path. So today we're starting, you could say, the first step of that into the future, the path that allows everybody to function on a higher level. And now we're going to say that the conference in Europe, people, we couldn't get the world leaders to listen to what we're saying. The protests are going on all over the world, and people are angry at their governments. And then, so which plan is actually working now and can work and has the potential to work? So now all these MAGAs people are going to have to assume responsibility for their own prosperity, and the liberals, basically, if they are not solving problems based on the root cause of the problem, then people are going to have to stand up and start solving problems on their own. So now what we're doing is my organization is going to be explaining all the principles on how to take these next steps, how to start off. The first one we're going to look at, you could say, is how to bring everybody in, all the world leaders into this conference, and that is with the government proposals and the track our progress planning. The first one is a U.S. economic stimulus program. We have 4 U.S. economic stimulus programs, and the first one is the exit strategy for Iraq. It plugs the drain on the U.S. economy to the Middle East. And right now, Joe Biden is talking about Iran and influencing Iran and Iran moving into the Middle East, and everybody's worried and such. When in 2001 is, or about that time period, is when I first announced the idea of the first government proposal. 2003, let's say, in response to the Iraq War. I sent this out, and it was an original proposal that had to do with offering Saddam Hussein at the time. This is going to be ancient history for some people who are listening. Offering Saddam Hussein the opportunity to step out of power, but to stay in there long enough to allow the Iraqi people, for him to set up this plan for the international government in Iraq. At that point in time, the resistance was so strong. It was the George Bush administration was so strong because they had their plan, they had their own agenda. But what happened was nobody paid any attention to this plan for the international government. In 2012, I introduced a second Iraq proposal that allowed this to go forward, and then I sent it out to all the embassies, and basically they became aware of this idea of the international government. I did an end run and introduced this idea. So then I've also introduced the idea of not the World Peace Marketing Strategy, the government, or the letter to the Supreme Court that introduces universal law as the basis for this, a government proposal. So now we have, the plan has been going out. It's met fierce resistance to it. There's been people who are basically running around acting more and more illogical all the time, trying to stop it from happening because they don't understand the whole idea behind it, that it benefits everyone. Nobody's in agreement with a plan that benefits only one person. Why would anybody go along with that? So now we're looking at this idea of this because the easy solution of the offering Saddam Hussein the opportunity to be part of this idea as equal to the United States, he would have gone along with that if it had been actually our government sitting down with him and saying, we can negotiate this idea. You stay in power long enough to turn this over, and then you'll help create the international government with us. We'll all work together on this. Okay, so now, while it didn't work with Saddam Hussein because George W. Bush had his own agenda, and then Bill and Hillary Clinton got in, and they basically didn't follow through. They didn't have a way to end the genocide. The Iraq War started a global genocide, the worst case scenario. So now we're looking at this idea of this global genocide that's been creating ripples of effects. All right, so now that's basically where we are now, is we are taking this next, we're stepping back from this idea of being able to offer different world leaders the opportunity to do that. But first of all, we have to bring in the United States, and that is going to require another person to come in. But right now we have the second government proposal that went out to the ambassadors. They're all talking about it. I sent it to my representatives in Congress in Oregon. Basically, they have the government proposal, and whether or not they didn't really contact me and say this is a great idea. So now what we're going to do is we're going to assume that they have their own agenda. They're not listening, but we're going to make it the first government proposal is to go forward with this idea in the Track Our Progress planning, and then with the second government proposal, they already got that, and now that's where we're going to open discussions here. We're going to be like the bulwark that allows this to happen, and this grassroots movement, but it's not a grassroots movement, it's just everybody evolving into the future. It's not that you have to join my organization. I only have 200 families basically who are part of this idea. But what it is it's taking these ideas and moving forward with them into the future in a situation where we're opening it to debate and we're bringing it about. Okay, so now that's where we are today, is the first Track Our Progress idea. I have the next step for me is a newsletter that allows this. So as we go forward, we're also going to be going around in a circle and the final conclusion is to bring in a nation and go around this circle and with a government proposal, a newsletter, the books associated with explaining how it works and why it doesn't work, and we're going to go around like a loop with 12 steps, and then we're going to they're listed, that not the full 12 steps, the 6 steps, but 22 stages of it, of the planning process. We're going to go around that way to allow step-by-step, simple logical steps, perfect order, and then that will allow the next. As we go forward, that will set the stage, you could say like a first block for the international government, first foundation block, and then the next one will build the foundation block onto this, and then this one will be the constitutional amendment idea. So that's where we are now, is looking at this idea of bringing each of them around this planning process in a loop idea. And that's in the Track Our Progress planning. So if you are interested in following along on this, you can join in at any time. You can be here and speak about this in the comment section below. You can get more involved with it on this level if you're interested. You can read the government proposal. You can or when the newsletters come out, we can do that. You can order a subscription if that's something, and then for each of these government proposals that come out, that's my World Peace newsletter that I'm becoming the editor of that, and then we do the advisory aspect of it. We bring in that allows me to bring in the professional publishing team, that allows us to bring in the next people to come in, my group of people, then that brings in the people. So it goes on around the circle. So you'll see it if you check into the Track Our Progress section on the website. You can see all the way down all the government proposals and all the ideas. But the first one got kind of mixed up because the U.S. government didn't accept the first idea, and then it had to go into the more difficult proposal. If they don't accept it again, which is where we are almost right now, is there will be a war. We're being dragged into a civil war, but it's going to be the entire world against the United States. We can't fight it because, as this has been going on, Russia and China and other countries have built up a wall of resistance around it. And we have to keep doing, at this point in time, we have to keep doing what's in everyone's best interest. Okay, that's all I wanted to talk about today. So check out the Track Our Progress section at oneworldgov.org. And there's a section on it, and you can see for 2012. So now the government idea has been going out, but it's met resistance. There's always resistance with something new that comes out because the people are looking at the past as a foundation, as what they want to go back to, something they know, they're relying on it, and then we have to move forward into it. So the younger generations come in and act, you can say, as the momentum that brings the old people around, like me, around into the future. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say today. And please check out down below the Track Our Progress Planning, and also like, share, and subscribe, and join the debate and comment down below and start this idea. And what we'll do then is we'll bring more people in. That's all I wanted to say today. Thank you. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for being part of the plan for the international government.